What do you think is the most important muscle in our body? Maybe biceps or abs? Of course not. The most important muscle in our body is our heart. If you want to live your happy life, then you need to train not the biceps, not the abs, but your heart. But many of us do it wrong. People think that any lot is good, but it's not. If you don't know certain rules, you can ruin yourself much faster than improve your health. Hi friends, I'm Ibra, and in this video, I will tell you how to properly train our cardiovascular system, how to do cardio workouts, and how to heal our body by performing exercise. So watch this video until the end, stay healthy, subscribe to my channel, and let's go. In fact, the heart is a very powerful thing. It's able to create a jet that spits blood for almost 9 meters. According to the rules of YouTube, I have to make a reservation. Don't try to test it in practice. Believe me, it's so. That's why with such serious and powerful motor as a heart, jokes are bad, and you need to be able to handle it. And so the bigger your body, the more your mass, the more you need to pump blood. And if you need to pump more blood, then your heart should be firstly bigger in itself, and secondly pump more blood per unit of time. And then there comes a certain fork. The smaller your heart, the more contractions it needs to pump the same volume of blood, and the larger your heart, the less contraction it needs. That's why excess weight is so harmful to our cardiovascular system, because excess weight is always an increased load on the heart. Respectively, we can conclude that hypertrophy of the heart is the good, but there is one very insidious news. Hypertrophy of the heart is different. The first type is called L-hypertrophy. This is when your heart volume increases. The second type is D-hypertrophy. This is when your heart size itself increases. So the first type is useful and the second type is very harmful and even dangerous. That is, we should strive for L-hypertrophy when our walls become more elastic, when our heart is able to pump more blood, not because it's bigger itself, but because the walls are more elastic and have better properties to achieve. But if we go with the second type of D-hypertrophy, then we have a thickening of the walls of the heart muscle, but this doesn't bode well. It just can eventually lead to a heart attack. This is all very important to understand. Okay, now the question areas: how should I train? How we can use this knowledge? The main recommendation here is the following. Watch your pulse. Don't let your pulse rise to the limit levels. That is 180, 190 or even under 200. It's much more optimal to perform cardio often and longer with a small pulse from 110 to 130. There are some hotheads who think that just running a little pulse 120 is for weaklings, so I'll run fast. I'm much cooler, so I'll train and be healthier and stronger. So let's figure out why it's so necessary to do this. If you run with a high pulse, that is 170 and higher, what will happen? Of course your heart will contract, it will work. Well, where can it go? But the problem will be that it will not have time to relax and rest. It needs to continue pumping blood. As a result, tension will arise in the heart that will interfere with normal blood circulation. As a result, oxygen starvation will occur. Then there is a hypoxia, lactic acid will begin to be released. Because of this, the mitochondria of the cells will begin to die. And what will happen for the place of the dead cells? Connective tissue will begin to appear. Connective tissue in the heart is evil. It's not elastic. It doesn't participate in its function, in its work, and as a result, if a person gets carried away with such intense cardio loads for too long, this will lead to myocardial dystrophy and ultimately may even cause it to stop. Why sometimes athletes who run long distances, for example marathon runners, die literally shortly before the finish line, or people who train very intensively die in their sleep from cardiac arrest, precisely because of these reasons, when the body can already relax, but the heart cannot, and hence a very important thing. If you are running, cycling, swimming, any cardio workout, always control your pulse. Now there are a huge number of fitness bracelets that record it all in real time. The simplest thing I've done for many years is to measure it manually. That is, you take a watch with a second and timer, touch your neck, feel your pulse and count. I used to count 12 seconds and multiply at 5. I have always tried to ensure that the pulse never rises above 140. An important caveat:
I don't claim that in any case you should never raise your pulse to 180. No, in some cases it's permissible. But with an important caveat, you need to do this sometimes and for a short time. For example, even oldies, marathon runners also run short distances, raising their pulse to higher results. This helps them make their heart stronger, but they don't do it constantly and regularly. They do it dosed, and if you have started your motor to the limit, then rest and give it recover. And from here the following question: what about interval training? It's also a very popular direction when people are engaged in interval and cardio training. What this principle is that you first run at a calm pace for a while, then accelerate, then calm again, then accelerate, and alternate like this. Of course, interval training is also not bad, but they also need to be dosed, and don't get carried away with them. They have certain advantages. Firstly, they have the effect of oxygen depth, that is, such training is quite a noticeable stress for the body. Also, accordingly, after training for several hours, your body will continue to recover, and along the way it will consume more oxygen and spend more calories. It will also contribute to weight loss a little better, because you also burn more energy. And of course, they save great time, which for many of us is quite an actual argument, because 15 minutes a day is enough for you and you have already trained. It's not an hour or two to run on the track, but there are of course disadvantages. Firstly, it is increased injury and harm to the heart if you get very involved in this. I just told you about it, so it will be a normal option if you dilute both the usual cardio load and the interval one. And of course, you still need to give the advantages of moderate cardio load. Going next, which types of cardio are more useful, which are less? It's very important to say about the jump rope. The thing is that the jump rope can be harmful to the heart. Oddly enough, if you jump with the two legs at the same time, that is jumping vertically up and down, is harmful to your heart because it creates unnecessary fluctuations and disrupts its work. So if you like a jump rope, then don't jump with the both feet in place, but move your legs and move behind the spirals as if you are running. And what load is considered the most useful for the heart? It's believed that swimming, because during swimming we are in a horizontal position, and as the position it's more comfortable for the heart to pump blood. Excessive and harmful load doesn't fall on it. So if you have the opportunity to swim, then be sure to use it. But on the other hand, it's clear that we probably don't swim in the pool all our lives. Not everyone has a pool next to the house, plus not everyone has the opportunity. What is the most basic advice in this situation? The most useful and the most correct cardio load will be long-term work with a low pulse of 110-112 for several hours a day. How can this be achieved? Take a walk more. In one of the past videos I talked about how to live up to 100 years, and it was a big study on centenarians, and scientists found such a pattern that those people who live for a long time, they walk a lot during the day. Why do mountaineers live for a long time? Because they walk back and forth in the mountains from morning to evening. A large amount of moderate physical activity is the healthiest thing that can only be done. Here is the question: but if a student has to sit for a half a day at a lecture, then sit for a half a day doing homework, or if, for example, an office employee, he sits at his office desk all day at the table, you don't really look like there either. And in this regard, it seems to me that the most ideal job for health is an employee of a hypermarket. Oddly enough, I always look and thought how great it was for them. They walk so much from morning to evening. Moreover, they also work in a parallel with this. And after all, the hypermarket is huge, from corner to corner until you walk tens of kilometers. Yes, perhaps I need to tie up with the YouTube and go pump my healthier.
So friends, now it will be very interesting for you to watch my video where I talk about myth in training in which we still believe. Video have already on your screen, and if you like this video then press like button, share your thoughts and comments below, and see you on my other videos.